بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We've joined together once again for the last night of this series. And in this series, we have sought to discuss different themes from the Holy Quran in order that we can build our relationship with the Holy Book. For this month, after all, is a month of the Quran, as the Quran itself describes this month by saying, Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fiha al-Quran. The month of Ramadan is that month within which the Quran was revealed. And we need to ask ourselves this question, that as we approach the middle of this month, that through one half of the month, do we feel our relationship with the Quran has improved? Or is our relationship with the Holy Book the same as it's been? And in this series, we've examined different types of commentary before we began to focus upon what is called thematic commentary. And in thematic commentary, as I mentioned, we examine a specific topic in the lens of the Holy Quran. And I was thinking of which topic to conclude this series upon. And the topic which I have decided today is not an analysis by theme as much so as an analysis of an ayat and a verse, and that is the famous verse, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I thought, why not end this series on a verse which is a part and parcel of the lives of Muslims everywhere. It is the most often recited verse of the Holy Quran, a verse that is recited mandatorily in the prayers, and it is much more important within the Shia theological school as opposed to other schools of thought. Why? Other schools of thought, they don't consider Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim as a part of every chapter. But we within the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam consider Bismillah to be a part of every chapter. That's why it's stated that when Muawiyah, he comes towards Medina, Muawiyah, he leads prayer, he leads it without saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The companions at that time, they say, "Oh Muawiyah, have you forgotten this verse of the Quran or have you swallowed it?" Meaning, why don't you recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? So he had to redo that prayer and he had to say it with Bismillah. After that incident in Medina, when Muawiyah goes back to Sham, he begins to pay individuals in their propaganda machine that he had created to remove Bismillah as a part of every chapter. And this is why even today you see particular countries, when the salat is recited there, after Allahu Akbar, they go directly to Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So you see the impact is there, but this verse is a verse of fundamental importance. Ahlul Bayt, they did not only consider this verse as being a part of the Quran, but rather they considered it a juz of the iman of a person, as the famous tradition which each and every one of you know, attributed a tradition of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, where the Imam says, Alamatul mu'min khams, that the signs of a believer are five. He says, number one, as-salat ahdi wa khamseen, that a believer recites 51 units of prayer every day, which is the wajib prayer and salatul layl and the nawafila. Then he says after that, a believer is somebody, he has ta'firul jabin, that he prostrates on clay, particularly the clay of Karbala. Then number three, he says after that, he wears a ring upon his right hand. And the wearing of the ring on the right hand has its own history. It's stated that after the Battle of Siffin, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he was about to win that battle, but due to the deceit on the side of Muawiyah and the troops of the Imam being deceived, you find that he was forced into an arbitration. When the Imam was forced into an arbitration, at the Battle of Nahrawan, you find that the Imam, when he goes, he is about to, the Imam says to them that continue to fight, but they say no. At the Battle of Siffin, that when the Imam, they say no, that the Quran is upon a spear. So at that point, at the Battle of Siffin, correction, you find that Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, okay, I don't want to engage in arbitration, but if there is going to be one, then I will select Malik al-Ashtar. They say, no, Malik is too close to you. The Imam says, okay, then I will pick Ibn Abbas. They said, no, he's still too close to you. So they say that we will nominate Abu Musa al-Ashari. So on the side of Imam Ali was Abu Musa al-Ashari. On the side of Muawiyah was Amr bin As. Amr bin As and Abu Musa, when they meet, Amr bin As, he fools him. He says to him very well, you denounce Ali, I will denounce Muawiyah, but you make the announcement first. So when Abu Musa, he makes the announcement, he says, in the way I am removing this ring from the right hand, I am denouncing Ali bin Abi Talib as the governor. After that, you find Amr bin As goes up and he says, in the way I am removing the ring from the right hand, I am denouncing Ali as the governor. And as I am placing it on the left hand, I am announcing Muawiyah as the governor, as the governing body. And in the general term that I'm using it, I mean the caliph, as it's stated within the historical text. So this is that history. After that, you find the ring on the left hand became a sign for something else, but the followers of Ahlul Bayt would keep a ring upon their right hand. And of course, if you have two rings, then you can wear it on the left hand. But you find the sign that I want to come towards is that sign that says that a believer, he recites Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim loudly. A believer in a salat, he recites Bismillah loudly. And this is why Bismillah is not only a sign of Iman, but rather it is a sign that a person, he believes in the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that this is the power of Bismillah. And this verse, to shorten it, they call it the Basmala. So Alhamdulillah, the shortened form, when you want to refer to that entire verse, you call it the Hamdallah. Over here, you call this the Basmala. That when you are talking about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now, this verse occurs in the Quran 114 times. 113 out of 114 chapters begin with this verse, the only exception being Surah At-Tawbah. But it has a total of 114 occurrences because there is the famous letter of Sulaiman when the Quran says, وَإِنَّهُ مِن سُلَيْمَانَ وَإِنَّهُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ, that it is from Sulaiman. And indeed, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Imam Askari has a tradition. He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is closer to the Ism A'dam as the iris is to the pupil of the eye, that the iris, the colored portion of the eye, how close is it to the pupil of an individual? You find that this is the relation of Bismillah towards the reality of the Ism A'dam. It is stated when a child learns to recite Bismillah, 3 people are forgiven. That child is forgiven. The parents of that child are forgiven. And the teacher are forgiven. Whenever an individual learns to recite Bismillah, that is the power of this verse. It's stated in a separate incident One day, a companion of Ali bin Abi Talib, he comes, he visits Amir al-Mu'mineen, he falls off the chair. When he falls off the chair, when he's meant to sit, Imam Ali says, all praises belong to Allah, who punishes our Shia within this world. The man says, oh Imam, what punishment, what did I do wrong to deserve this? The Imam says that when you sat, you did not say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You see, Bismillah is something which should be a part and parcel of the life of a human being. That's why it's stated that make yourself into such a habit of saying Bismillah that even when you are about to sin, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The line may sound strange, but the ulama say that make such a habit of Bismillah that even when you are about to sin, say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, because perhaps the power of that Bismillah is that it prevents you from committing that sin, that this is the reality of this verse. You know, there's a famous incident of Sheikh Murtada Ansari and Najaf al-Ashraf. It's stated that Sheikh al-Ansari, that there was a person who would go towards his class, his Darsul Kharij class. This person has spent a number of years in Najaf, and he hadn't gained in the manner that he was supposed to. So he goes towards the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he goes to the shrine of Imam Ali, he begins to speak over there. He says, oh my master, I've tried, I've come, I've made an effort to learn, but I've not been able to learn. It's stated that night when he goes to sleep, he sees Imam Ali. Imam Ali recites Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim within his dream. When Imam Ali whispers Bismillah, next day he goes to the class of Sheikh Murtada Ansari. He begins to discuss, he begins to have an answer towards the questions of the Sheikh. He says to him, where did you get this knowledge from? He says that, where did you get this knowledge from? The man, he doesn't answer. Sheikh al-Ansari says that the one who recited Bismillah in your ears recited all the way up to Daleen in my ears. So that is the reality of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That when you look at this verse, you find three of the greatest names are found within this verse. The name Allah is found within this verse. That Ism Jam, which gathers all of the attributes of Allah. That Ism Jam, which gathers all of the sifat of Allah. Then you find you have the name Rahman. The name Rahman is that name which is a name of a hierarchy within the universe. As the Quran says, Udullaha awidur Rahman, that call upon Allah or call upon the All-Beneficent, whichever name you call upon, for him are the best of names. So over here, you find the name Rahman was placed alongside the name of Allah, going to show the power of the mercy of Allah, the blessing of Allah. And that is what is found within this verse. And of course, there are two different types of mercy. The mercy of Rahman is that mercy which is all expansive. Allahumma inni asaluka bi rahmatika allati wasiyat kulla shay. It says, Allah, I ask through the right of your mercy, which is all expansive. But you find God being Rahim is that mercy which is given towards the believers. And there's many different aspects to this verse. For example, Rasulullah would say that kullu amrin dibalin, that every matter, every affair of value, which doesn't begin with Bismillah fahuwal abtar, that it is cut, it doesn't have value. We see in our lives that oftentimes when a building is open or when a new area is opened, you'll call the governor of the city to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. You'll call an honorable person to have the commencement. Over here, whenever you begin an act, if you want to give permanence to the act, if you want to give barakah to the act, blessing to the act, then you begin it with the verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And you find this reality is contained within the verse, Bismillah. And there's a question that comes up though, that we find Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim occurring in so many chapters of the Holy Quran, Why is it that this is the case? You find the first reason is that it is in the nature of man to forget. Man, the word insan, according to some etymological roots, comes from the word nisyan. Nisyan, it means to forget. That's why the human being is in need of constant reminders that when you look at the system of Allah, Allah would send a prophet. That prophet would guide the people. The people would forget the remembrance of that prophet. And you find that a new nation would come and the cycle would repeat. That people, we need constant reminders. So, on the first level, the repetition of Bismillah, it serves as a reminder for each and every person. But at the second level, you find there is a theory which was proposed by Allama Tabatabai. Allama Tabatabai, he says, that each Bismillah in each chapter has different nuance and variation. What this means is that oftentimes you'll see a person say Bismillah at different occasions. When he stands up, he'll say Bismillah. When a person opens the door for somebody else, he'll say Bismillah. When he wants to have a conversation and people are interrupting each other, he'll say Bismillah as a gesture for the other person to go first. So, what this goes to show is that each of these Bismillah, even though it's the same verse, it has different application according to the context. And the same can be said of the Holy Quran. And there's much to be said about this topic of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But on today, I haven't come to take much time. I've concluded this portion of the lecture, and to summarize the entire series, we've examined different methods of tafasir in this series. We've examined different ways that we can build our relationship with the Holy Quran, ways which include reflecting upon the Quran, pondering over the Quran. And I mentioned one difference between reflection and pondering is that pondering, you see the outcome of the verse. Reflection, you see the reasons as to behind the verse. I mentioned the fact that a person should be able to take notes on the Quran in order that he can remember different aspects, in order that he can build his relationship. And as Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam says to Muhammad al-Hanafiya, that no day should pass except that a person should recite 50 verses of the Quran, that at the bare minimum, whether it is Shahru Ramadan or it is not Shahru Ramadan, you find a person should make it the habit of reciting 50 verses. A different tradition says that the one who recites 10 verses of the Quran every day, he will not be from amongst the ghafileen. He will not be heedless. He would have been given a reminder. The one who recites 50 verses every day, he will be from amongst the dhakireen and the remembrance, or those who remember. And then the 100 verses a day, he will be amongst the qaniteen and the strong believers. And with that said, today I conclude a little bit earlier than our usual length of lecture. And we pray to Allah, oh Allah, I ask through the right of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, wherever the followers of Ahlul Bayt are in difficulty, help them. Wherever they are sick and ailing, help them. Ya Allah, we pray for the advancement of humanity. We pray for the strength to walk on the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. We pray for the facilitation of our relationship with the Holy Quran and building this relationship. And we pray for our community, particularly the community of Al Ghadir Educational Foundation in Houston, Texas, who put together this series of lectures. If there were any faults in the series, that fault is surely my own and not of the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And with that said, ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع